Hey everybody, this is Jay Young, the Jay Young Show. Thanks for coming on today. We got great guest, a great co-host, Jordan Soto. Hey, how are you today?
Hello, how's it going, Jay?
Man, doing awesome today. Man, it's just a really pretty day in the background. I guess on this shoulder right there, but no, I was doing really good and just getting started today. And I'm really excited that you're on. I'm excited that we have Dr. Thomas Black on today. I tell you though. I know you live in Houston, but we lost one of our chief of police in Dallas to Austin, and I know, and he's Eddie Garcia, incredible guy. He's been here since 2021. He changed up Dallas, and this is like our fourth top official that we've lost to Austin. And I don't know what they're doing down there, but they got something going on down there that they want our people.
Maybe it's Elon, maybe it's someone else. I don't know. But Austin seems to be the pop-in spot where everybody wants to be now. It seems everyone from California and even in other parts of Texas just want to be there.
Well, yeah, from baseball coaches to players.
Maybe it's Matthew McConaughey that's bringing him over.
Exactly. That could be something. He's quite a guy, I tell you what. But today we started.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say we're starting on, this is episode number 130, and we're having Dr. Thomas Black on today, physician and investment expert. I'm sorry. The thing I like most is his stint in the Army. Navy, Army, and Air Force. Man, we got to get.
It's incredible to see the history of your career, Tom. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing great, Jay. How are you guys doing this morning?
Man, we're doing great. I was just admiring your helmets there, the original UT.
Yeah, that's right. You were talking about Austin. It's because of that. I think it's a strong pull.
I'll tell you, anybody that goes to Austin, they don't let you go. They I don't know what they have down there, but man,
great town.
Oh my goodness! What a great city. I'd love to live in the city, but I'd have to live in a high rise in the middle of downtown because you don't want to drive inside. I lived there in 1969, 68, 69 or something, and the roads 35 South was still messed up, and they're still messed up since that time. That's a long time ago. That's probably before Jordan's dad was born, but I'm just telling you right now that place is the traffic's terrible. But if I could live in downtown and I could, go down the elevator and walk over to games and the UT games, they just bring it, man. What a great. So you went to UT. Did you go there?
I did. Yeah. So I actually went to med school there. So I went to undergrad up north here in Dallas area, but transitioned down there for a period and loved everything about it. It was great.
Yeah. So tell us something about yourself, kind of growing up, or where you got to where you are today. Because it's like you've retired 3 or 4 times, and you
I guess I can't make up my mind to a degree. I'd say I grew up in the North Fort Worth area. Was I'd say academically challenged at the time. I don't think it was really that. It was a motivational issue. So coming out of high school, I was scored very, very poorly on any exams and, couldn't go on to college. So found myself very quickly enlisted in the Navy, and that put the motivation in me to start doing other things. And so fortunately, after 3 tours and deployments overseas, I just, got this wild idea, hey, I've got to do something. Why not become a doctor? So, I set my mind to it, got off my enlisted contract, went to undergrad, did really, really well, got into med school, and then went on to residency. While in residency, started to figure out, wow, that this isn't the world that I might have thought it was. And so I came back to Texas to practice, and things were happening in healthcare, and just decided, hey, I think maybe it's time to start pivoting. So it's been a fun ride.
So you're a medical doctor first, and then
go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. So you're a medical doctor first, and then what kind of medicine, or what did that look like?
Yeah, so coming out of medical school, everybody's is a doctor, right, an MD, and then you go on to residency to specialize. So I did a postdoc or my residency training in emergency medicine. So spent 3 years at Indiana University, and then came back to Texas to practice out in the east portion of the state. So spent a number of years at a really high volume, high acuity trauma center, and kind of got bit by the real estate bug while I was out there and investing.
Wow.
When you're looking at your different journeys between the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, what's been the biggest difference between each of the branches?
Oh, that's a great idea, and I don't want to offend any of your listeners. I'll try and be as political on this as possible. So, in the Navy, I was enlisted, so I wasn't an officer. I like any good Navy experience, I made some pretty poor decisions as a young man, and got in a little bit of a trouble. So, it was a good experience for learning and learning how to be humble and eating a lot of crow. I actually had an appointment to go to the Naval Academy from enlisted ranks and then out. That was taken away. So I always had this thought that I wanted to complete that journey of becoming an officer. So when I got out after my enlisted career, I stayed, in the reserves. And while I was going to college, to become an officer, you need a degree. So ended up getting my bachelor's degree. So while I was in medical school, then joined the Army as an Army Reserve Medical Corps officer, which is great. The Army, first in, and being a emergency medicine doctor, I found myself forward deployed in a CASH, which is basically forward deployed hospital. At that time, I had a family, and things started to change, and sleeping on a cot was no longer the great idea that I thought it was. So I ended up jumping into the Air Force, which was a very, very different experience.
Wow.
So after 13 and a half years, I finally put it to rest.
Were you in the reserves in the Air Force, or were you?
Yes, no, I was. So I was actually here in Dallas, the 301st F-16 Squadron for a little while as a flight physician, and then I was with the B-52 Squadron out in Barksdale Air Force Base near Shreveport.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Well, Jay, also an entrepreneur, and I love talking with entrepreneurs like yourself and like Jay, because you guys have such a unique perspective and thought process of how you approach business. And given your background, and Jay, your background, talk a little bit about what that entrepreneur mindset looks like. Like what about your makeup makes you go, yes, I want to take this on. I want to build something.
Yeah, I think if you would have asked me this 10 years ago, I would have said, I'm kind of an accidental entrepreneur. I think that the frustrations that I felt in healthcare with private equity and a lot of things that were changing, I mean, it's an overregulated industry, and things are constantly in flux, and experiencing that, I think it opened my mind, especially in the portion of the state I was in, where there's a lot of entrepreneurial kind of activities going on. I looked back to my childhood going, where did this come from? And,
right.
I was the kid that was always mowing lawns or, shoveling snow or doing crazy things like selling baseball cards door to door. It was just kind of the fabric in my DNA. And it was something that really allowed me to get out of those frustrations with where I was. And it allowed me to traverse some things. And I think it just sometimes risk is a good thing. Throwing caution to the wind, as long as you're mitigating your downside, you try a lot of things and develop and learn who you are. And I think that's been the biggest driving force in moving on to the fun things instead of just, continuing on with mediocrity. It just wasn't the answer for me. What
about you, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, it happened, a few years ago when just had to take the chance. This guy gave me an opportunity, and he said, hey, I can help you. And I was young at the time. I talked about that with other people too. It's like, man, if you're ever going to do something, do it when you're younger to get started. Don't wait till you will not believe how much money it costs a college student these days.
Yes.
I'm just going to say, everybody knows my daughter goes to TCU, and she's on scholarship, but I'm just saying that we got the bills and everything that and it's like, oh my gosh, how do people do it these days? I mean, but it's crazy.
Absolutely amazing, Jay. I've been told that for years. I have 4 kids, and I just launched my first kid is actually at Texas, is at UT, and he's on scholarship. I thought it was going to be easy street. I had no idea how many bills are coming. I'm like, it's just left and right and everything. And, it's unbelievable that the amount of cash that's just exiting the house right now.
Yeah, I know, and exactly, and that's if you have one, two, three. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, it's like $90,000 a year at TCU, SMU. I mean, all these schools a year, and you have two, three, and you have. I mean, how can families literally afford? I mean, and the colleges has just gone crazy. It's not like they're almost turning down people. They're raising the prices so high. They're hoping to turn away people because everybody wants to go to these, TCU or SMU or whatever. It's crazy. But anyway, do it when you're young. And I'm going to say real quick, Tom, Dr. Black. I'm going to have to call you Dr. Black because
No, Tom's fine.
you got $1 billion in transactions here. Forbes, you wrote the Tax Cure, Entrepreneur. You were in the Army. I mean, it's like there's some aging thing you're doing. And I need to know what that is because you look like you are about 40, 45. And you're probably about 80 with all this credentials right here.
You're
You
awfully
look good.
generous. I actually turned 50 this month, so
That's
it's
awesome.
a bit of a reckoning. So,
Congratulations, but your credentials here say something different. I mean, it's like you've done so much, and that is so cool.
I've learned to harness. My brain just doesn't turn off. Then it used to be used for bad. I just figured out how to kind of recenter it and use it for good. My wife thinks I'm a bit crazy at times, but I just have to use the energy to do something positive and the next goal and the next goal and just keep on going, finding fun.
Well, one thing that we've kind of just touched on a little bit with the college prices, with the entrepreneur makeup and mindset and things like that, I think that social media has really shown a light on what is possible, especially if you get started young. And one of our goals here with the Jay Young Show is really to inspire young entrepreneurs to take that step and to get started and to use the insight and knowledge of our guests to provide valuable, almost like a resource for those young entrepreneurs to then take that leap and take that next step. So when we're looking at that, what is some advice that you would give to young entrepreneurs, especially given your background and all of this experience, as people are trying to learn about new ways to make money and
Sure.
to offset that financial struggle that we're seeing?
Yeah, I think Jay kind of hit the first topic, the first point on the head is do it while you're young, right? And I mean, the 20s, I tell my kids all the time that if they look back at what I've done, failure is a blessing to a degree. I mean, it's life has this tendency to give you the punishment first and the lesson later, and there's nothing wrong with it. And so when you go through your 20s, you want to fail. That's how you get better at something. I mean, you don't go with the abject cause to go, hey, I'm going to purposely fail on this. But, when you fail, you still learn. And that's the greatest thing. There's nothing wrong with failing because that's a learning process. I mean, you either fail or you either learn or you win. I mean, those are the two things. So in either way, you're really going to harness that. So the earlier you can do that, the better, right? Not only for a knowledge set, because when you creep through your 20s and 30s, you're not going to be to the point where, you're going to have a mortgage, a family, and kids. Failing becomes a lot harder, or you become more averse. But I think one of the greatest things that for my kids and that we show them that, I've had some massive failures early in my upbringing, and those were the pivotal things for me. And, as a school system in this country, we don't really do a good job with that of teaching that it's okay to fail. You don't have to be scared of it. It really is. It's a good thing.
Yeah. So. Tell us something about healthcare. I mean, you hear about healthcare, Obamacare, and nobody can afford this. I mean, can you kind of break it down? I want the listeners to just kind of hear it from an expert. And just what's going on there?
As long as we've got, what's going on there? If we got 3 hours, we can dive really deep into this. It's difficult because you've got so many different parties in the mix now, right? For physicians, you definitely have a bit of a loss of autonomy. You have other market pressures. You have insurance companies that are massive $1 billion per quarter profit companies that are, merging with pharmacy companies, things like that. You have another aspect of private equity that's gotten deep into healthcare with not only contract management groups, physician groups, but that own hospitals. And so you've got this weird juxtaposed profit and healthcare that arguably are really hard to make align right, because everything in healthcare and medicine is gray. Everything. There is no, you never say never. And business just isn't like that. It's ones and zeros. And so we're trying to make something fit where it's very difficult. And a lot of times those decisions have to be made on the fly at the bedside. And when those decisions are made, they tend to be an umbrella. And that's where the difficulty, I think, and that's probably the simplest way to break it down. That is, as we become more corporate in nature, we lose that relationship with the patient and the actual rationale for what we're doing in the first place.
Tell us a little bit more about your business. I think it's really interesting how you help physicians access alternative investments. So let's dive a little bit into that.
Yeah. So when I came out of residency and moved to East Texas, I had purchased the home we had in Indianapolis at the height of the market, and ended up renting it to an incoming resident for 3 years. And thought that was really simple, and signing a 3-year contract was easy, and I didn't have any any maintenance or anything. And I got bitten, falsely so, maybe by a bug to a degree. I started buying up houses as rentals to use really as cash flow. They were never supposed to be an equity type play. It was always for me to use as depreciation, because for me it was always about tax. I was trying to figure out how I can mitigate the tax bill when a physician, the average salaries is going to be 6 figures. And when you look at zero write-offs, because you're not really self-employed per se, you don't have any physical structures, you're taxed 35-40%. And so it was really not the most palatable thing for me to spend 3 to 4 months a year thinking that I was essentially giving that away for free. So the house started purchasing more and more houses. My partners started paying attention to what I was doing. And as my balance sheet was kind of maxed out, I started to get inquiries where they would want just to participate. And so from that, the firm called Nepali Capital was born. And so from houses, we went on to multifamily, to industrial, and to hospitality holdings. And it was really predicated on how do you make them a partner in the deal where they're getting not only cash flow, they're getting an equity percentage, but they're also getting depreciation, some tax benefit to offset that. So it was over a decade ago, and now you've got this awakening, I think, the last 5 years plus of alternative investments, where there's a lot more players in the space, but it changes. It changes people, and it's been great to be an educator like that. Yeah.
And you're also one of our clients too, which we appreciate that with King Operating and looking at us, because I really are just humbled by that and appreciate your trust. And I know you do a tremendous amount of due diligence, and you don't just jump in with somebody, because that's sometimes easy.
It took me a couple of years, Jay. I mean, it was your guys were there, and finally, as I understood the things, and as the economy changed, it made absolute sense to me for a million different reasons. In fact, we're pencils down on anything else in the portfolio, and heading straight in the direction you are. I mean, we're putting quite a bit of resources behind that, so it's been great. And King's been nothing but great. You guys are hitting the marks, and it's very transparent, and your updates are fantastic. So you guys are doing it right.
Hey, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. It is something that I pride myself on it. I'm 61 now. I've got 40 years in business, 30 whatever, and 30 years by myself or entrepreneur. And everything that we have, I've put into what we're doing right now. I mean, it's really fascinating to see what it is that, what's the way to do it, what's the not way, what's the due diligence. I mean, it's like, man, it's just, anyway, I love it.
You guys have cracked the code. I mean, there is no better way, compared to the older way of, having practiced out in East Texas. Listen, I knew my fair share of promoters, and you knew enough to be worried about it. That was it. So you guys have definitely cracked the code and created kind of the better animal.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. We've got great tax benefits, which I know attracted at first because of a lot of physicians, but there's also a lot of physicians that don't understand alternative investments, and that's where you are, because you're a quick study. I've had several conversations with you, and you are really one of those that just kind of asks a lot of questions and keeps on digging and digging, and then you get your physician friends to come in with you on Sidebar Investment, and just a great deal. I know that's a lot. But that's really a big. I want to say Obamacare threw you out of the healthcare and put you into invest. No, I'm just kidding. I don't.
Yeah,
This isn't
no, I
political.
wish if it was that simple, I promise. I mean, in a roundabout way, maybe, but healthcare in general, it's just a big ball of tape that is going to take a long time to unravel, if it ever does.
Right.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
And physicians too, they don't understand investments. They don't have time to do their due diligence, and so it's great that they have somebody like you to vet the deals. You're not going to do every one. You're just going to vet them, make sure that you're getting paid,
Right.
that you can leave Keller. I know Keller High School. My friends, the Boatners. Hey, Boatners.
Yep.
Hey, Chuck. But you can come into our office and sit down and talk to us. Say, hey, what's going on? Where are we going? Where are we going to drill this quarter? What are we going to do? What's our goals and all that? So let's don't turn this into the King Operating Show, which we love to do. But
No,
Jordan,
I'm happy to do that. We're
Jordan
good.
wants to kick me
I'm just
back
the guy in
over-
the background. There's nothing special about me. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to get through life and educate some people on the way there.
yeah.
And I think you're doing a great job of that, especially with your book. Let's talk a little bit more about that, the tax cure, and what drove you to write the book, and then tell us a little bit about it.
So I had written a book 2012, right around there, just about the experiences and kind of the Navy and the progression and more about alternative assets. And I never felt like it was finished. And the main component to what I was so passionate about was the tax. And so it was really born out of completing that book. And if people understand, especially when you get into the higher net worth or at least salaries, that you have to figure out a way to translate that salary into future, right? If you can figure out a way to enjoy the tax code, and I know that sounds absolutely bonkers, but there is, to a degree, kind of a yellow brick road in there, right? If you understand the pathways to take, then it's much less painful than just writing a check blindly every year. And so if you're intentional about it and you almost treat it like a game and you're able to do those things, then there is an absolute reward at the end of the day. And so I often tell people, physicians or anybody else, that it's truthfully not how much you make at the end of the year, it's how much you keep.
Right.
And so when you turn and understand that, like, great, you could make $500,000 a year, but if you're going to give away 300,000 of it, you're still in the same spot. You'd rather make 350 and keep 300 of it, right? You'd be better off in the first. So I think it's that was what the book was predicated on, and just getting my thoughts on paper. We owned a tax company for a little while, and I just always enjoyed it. It's very strange, I know, but it was part of my passion because it was really my salvation to getting out of medicine and the environment that I was in that I didn't like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What did you like best? Do you like the Army, Navy, or Air Force best?
You came back to it. I tried to navigate that really diligently. This is very political.
Man, I tell you,
Very
the
political on this
military
show.
background just really,
Yeah.
I mean, is incredible, and it's great that you have that. I noticed you were on. I walked in early, and you were right there on the camera, ready to go. I mean, it's like, man, military people.
It's so deeply ingrained in me. It's a problem. I mean, it really is. I can't purposely be late. It's impossible. My favorite was definitely the Navy. And I think that's just because, I mean, it was the one that I spent the most time in. It was the one that I traveled the world. I was on a destroyer for 3 years. The most experiences, whether good or bad, I look back and I know that's where I definitely kind of came out of my shell and, went from truthfully a boy to being, a man. I mean, it was an unbelievable experience, and I would have to say that one, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
I think it's all about the experiences.
Oh, don't say unfortunately. They all have their
Yeah,
pros.
they all have their merits, but my son actually is heading in that direction. So it's really fascinating to see actually where I got in trouble at one of the naval training stations about a month and a half ago. I went to his officer graduation, and he's graduating as an officer, like literally steps from where I went from busted down in rank. It was very weird and like this coming of age. It was like this very so.
Oh wow.
Well, we do appreciate your service and
Thank you.
and look forward to your son also contributing to that selfless service. I just have a few more questions, one in particular that I really want to get to, but Jay, do you have any other questions that you would like to ask?
Well, no, I don't think. Of course, I got 1,000 questions. But I can just go on and on. But what is it? ADD? Did you have ADD? Is that why you were from the Navy? No, I'm just kidding. I was just.
No, I mean, I still got it. I mean,
I was like, Jay, I don't think that
I
goes
just
away.
sit there. Yeah, no. That's why I was early. I'm just sitting here writing stuff. I just go off on random tangents, and that's what I've learned is to harness that and to focus. Don't chase the squirrel or the shiny object. It took me years to figure that out. Years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something that Jay and I were talking yesterday, 2 days ago, with Sarah Magruder about was that focus and having that vision and bringing that to life through the mission, right? Which is that daily actionable items that bring you toward that vision, and just having that focus and an awareness of where you're at and where you're going is so crucial to having that success.
Yeah.
So I think all three of us may have ADHD. So
Nothing wrong with it. I think you can harness it. I think it's a good thing.
yes,
Well, I know
absolutely.
Tom's really good and really smart. And we're at the Ranger game, and I like leaving early because I go to so many games. I'm just like, hey, I want to make sure I want to get home early. And
Beat the traffic.
but Tom just kept on talking, and it's not like somebody that just keeps talking, and it's not interesting. He kept my attention so much, and I was like, hey, I'm. It's not like I'm. Some people will talk, and you're like, 2 words go out of the mouth, like I'm trying to finish this and end this conversation.
Yes.
But Tom just kept talking, so he's incredibly bright, and I really respect that about you, Tom, because you do keep attention, and you keep attention, but you keep asking questions if you don't know, which is
I just couldn't let you leave. I wanted you to get the full value of the Ranger game is really what my objective was. And the whole thing.
I'm not even sure who was playing that night or if they won. I get home, my wife goes, "Did they win?" I go, "I don't know." Who they play? I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, but Tom Black is an incredible guy, and you should talk to him anytime, especially if you're looking for tax benefits or tax code or anything else. So he's quite the guy.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I have 2 questions left, and one of those questions before I get to the final one is when we're talking about keeping that focus and keeping that attention and tending to have the squirrel or shiny moment, when it's easy to get bored, especially when you're a high performer and an entrepreneur. So how do you keep that focus, and then how do you keep challenging yourself to stay engaged as you continue on your path?
That's I think that's the $100 million question, right? I think first, I think it goes back to a point you made earlier with social media, right? I think we're in this weird time right now that it's really, really, really easy to see something and see someone doing something and have this weird fear of missing out.
Right.
And a lot of it is not what it seems, right? We know that there's a lot of glitz to it. And typically if you're listening to someone or somebody has these great ideas, they don't necessarily have anything bankable behind them. I mean, if there is no product, you're the product, right? I mean, so people are selling. So I think it's a healthy amount to stay away from some of that, to be cognizant that to know what you do and to stay in your lane to a degree. But also, the older I've gotten, I've learned that boring is really sexy for business. I would rather be boring and just on the mark every single time, because the times I've gotten off task have probably led to some failures, which, and I say failures as more of in a learning sense, just saying, wow, we need to recorrect, wrong path. Let's go back to what we know, what is the core, because that is what, in the end of the day, gets you down the hump of whatever those goals are. It is refining, it's people, there's so many elements that it's probably one of the my hardest tasks that I've had to learn, to not chase those things, to have these ideas and try and go off thinking that, that you've recreated some idea. I just try and challenge myself to really replay that message over and over, to say, what's my end goal here? And refocus based on that and kind of work backwards. And, having enough times of various different companies, I've learned enough to know that nothing is easy. You may get lucky once or twice, but everything takes a bit of good work to make it successful. And the work is where it's at. It's tedious, it's focus, and it's good if it's boring.
And then I have one last question here, and that is if you could go back and talk with your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give him?
The obvious easy answer is don't do that stupid thing you did. Because, and when I think about it though, I mean, I'm 50 now. I would probably just be getting out of the military. I would have gone on Annapolis. I would have been right in the middle, and this comes up fairly frequently because I would have gone to flight school. That was my thing. I wanted to be a pilot.
Right,
I would have been right in the middle of the war for the last 20 years.
right.
It would have been a very different life. I have no idea, but the only thing I enjoyed doing is, going Mach 2 with my hair on fire. I just found a different way to do it in emergency medicine and, enjoyed that, and then finance. So the answer to your question is really hard. And it's actually, I wouldn't say anything. I just say, go tear it up, be stupid, go do what you're going to do, and you're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
I always look backwards, and I can't begrudge any answer. And when I do, I just say, you know what? Well, what did I learn from that? And that's been life's single biggest miracle is the 3 different times that I've jumped ship. I mean, leaving medicine was a big, and quitting a Democratic practice to move to Dallas was another big thing. That was just like, I've got to just cut the rope and see what happens, and the parachute opens. It will. It just, you don't know if it's right off the cliff or if it's before you hit the ground. Work hard enough, it's going to open. And so, I don't know, my 18-year-old self, I'd just say double down. Don't work so hard in undergrad. You're going to get through. Quit being so difficult. Go party a little bit.
Right. Well, and two, one thing that I know, and I've got a lot of respect for you, Tom, as I mentioned, but you ask really great questions. I want my kids or people that I talk to or mentor, hey, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't know something, make sure you understand it fully, because I still get in the rut of I'm listening to somebody and I'm like, yeah. Well, I don't ask a question because I don't want to feel stupid,
Right.
and I should know the answer, but I don't. But I don't want to tell them I don't know because I don't. No,
Right.
no,
You wanna
no, no,
create
no,
this,
no,
yeah.
no, man. I'm going to ask questions, and I think that's one thing that I really do like about you, because your brain does. I mean, this is like, man, you're going 100 miles an hour, and it's something that, I see you stop, and when we're talking and you're looking and you're going, oh, okay, so how does this work, or how, but you really ask great questions, which I think is a really good. It's an excellent trait for you, and I know you're teaching your son and daughter. I don't think I met your son. I think I met your daughter,
Three
right?
girls. I hope they listen. We'll see.
Yeah.
They've only got so many years left here, and they ain't coming back. So they're all out at 18. Good luck.
Yeah.
But I think keeping that curiosity alive and that wonder alive is really what sets
Yeah.
those leaders and top performers apart from others. So,
Yeah.
well, Dr. Black, Tom, however you'd like to be noted as, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast today. Wonderful insight, great conversation. As Jay said, you are just delightful to talk to. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. And it was a lot of fun.
How can people reach out to you?
Oh, I'd say just email is probably the easiest, and that's Thomas, THOMAS, at NapaliCap. And I'll spell that. It's Thomas at NAPALICAP.com.
Napoli.
Always available.
Napoli. Okay, good. That's great.
And
Okay.
Nepali. I'm going to correct you on this one. I was the Nepali coast. So
Not
the North Shore-
Nepali.
Hawaii.
Nep-
If you haven't been there, you need to go. It's an
Okay.
absolutely
Oh,
amazing
we were
place.
just talking about Hawaii the other day, Jay.
Oh,
I think
I know.
that's the universe telling us.
Man.
Hawaii, you got to go. It's unlike
Man.
anywhere on the planet.
That's great. Well, hey, Tom, I appreciate you being on. Jordan, thank you for being here again today. I think one of the biggest things we learned today, Jordan, is from this guy who should be, he's got 80 years of experience in a 50-year-old body. He looks
Feels
great.
like 6 other body though, I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's about asking questions. I think it's about don't be afraid. Man, I mean, he's taken so many different levels and so many. I mean, like, okay, I'm going to be in the Army. I'm going to be in the, and then all of a sudden he goes, I'm going to be a doctor. I don't know what goes in the mind that says, hey, I'm going to be in the Navy. You're in the Navy first, right?
Yeah. Well, that
Navy.
was just because I couldn't do anything else. I didn't have a choice.
Then he goes to, and then all of a sudden he's talking to his physician friends, and he puts together investment platforms. So really, really neat. I mean, it's great people like this that really do help us out a lot. So thank you for being here, Tom. And Jordan, you got anything else to finish up? Good?
I don't think so. We'll see you on Wednesday.
All right, good. Well, hey,
Thanks.
everybody, thanks for being here today. We had a great time, and I hope you learned a lot. And be sure to subscribe or ask questions. We should have questions during the show. I mean, there should be. We should try to do some questions during the show because if we
Hey,
sit
you
here
can
and
always comment below.
yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, everybody. Thank you. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Jay Young Show. We're going to have, right now, scheduled is going to be, we're going to learn something about NIL. Now, this is something that is a phenomenon. I mean, it's really going around the world. College athletes, how much money is in college athletics? And they're working on some things to share in revenue sharing with athletes, which, TCU, volleyball player, daughter, and how much money is there and how does this get down to, I mean, somebody said the other day, 60% of people go to a school because of sports, some kind of sport. I mean, there's so many different types of sports, but that's the reason why college kids go to camp, not because they want to get, I know the Princeton Ivy Leagues are different, but just an overall school, how's the athletics? And that's going to be sharing revenues with college athletes. I've got volleyball coach Jason Williams, Coach Jason Williams, who was at Baylor, and now he's head coach at TCU. They're now number 23 in the country. TCU volleyball is. We've never been ranked before, ever, and we were 25th last week. We beat UCLA 23. We've got some really good games this weekend, which should help our ratings. We're playing University of Denver tonight, and then we're playing Rice tomorrow. Rice is going to be really cool. It's going to be on probably ESPN because our libero our defensive player is she is her mom is the coach of Rice. She plays TCU, and her mom is the coach of Rice. So you have these two going against each other. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So
Battle of the houses.
yeah,
That's how it always is.
Alice and her mom is the Rice head coach. So it's going to be a lot of fun in TCU this weekend. So I'll be heading over there, driving back and forth a couple times. But anyway, everybody, thank you so much for being here today. Had a great time, and we'll see you again here next week. Thank you.
Great. Thank y'all.